Should we stop investing in our 401k to pay down our home mortgage equity, home equity line of credit? Interesting question we got here. Controversial, because I'm going to tell you what the how-to here. So this is from my friend Lou or Loy up in Washington. Pretty interesting. So they both work in the public sector. He's 48, she's in her 40s as well. They make between $200,000 a year between them. They got $350,000 in a mortgage at 3 3/8. That's 3.375. Excuse me. I need to just start going back to that. And they have how much they had in that mortgage? $350,000 in mortgage. 21 years left on the amortization schedule. They got 141 on a HELOC with 13 years remaining at 15-year fixed at 4 1/4. All right. So should they reduce their 401k contributions from $27,000 to nothing? Because we cannot take mortgage interest deduction because the new tax law, you can't, their standard deductions can be too high over their mortgage interest deduction, it seems like. Yeah, I bet that's probably true. And put that money towards paying off the HELOC. And have that home and HELOC and home mortgage and having it paid off in less than 11 years. Is this the best option, or are there other options? When we retire from our jobs, we're going to get 80% of our current income from pension. We'll make more than $200,000 with Social Security and pension income at that point. Let's see. Okay. All right. So, and they only need about $100,000 to live on in this area. Okay. Good. All right. And they're going to be in the high tax bracket when they retire for sure. It's a tough one, man. But all right. So let's go back to this. We know for a fact they're not getting a mortgage interest deduction. Why? Because he told me that. He said he's not getting a mortgage interest deduction. So should they take their 401k contributions and allocate that, because they're maximizing their 401k contributions, and allocate that towards paying off their mortgage? Well, all right, so a couple things happening here. The first thing we got to find out, is there a match? And my presumption, because they work for the county or the government, I'm not sure, there's probably not a match because they have a pension. So we're going to assume there is no match. So my man, if you got a match, you take advantage of the match. I mean, it's insane not to take advantage of the match. If the match is 3%, then take 3%. Just take that, absolutely. Number two, though, what do we know about the home equity line of credit? It's 4 1/4 fixed for the next 13 years. He's got 141 outstanding on that. So let's look at what we think Vanguard on the higher end, Schwab on the higher end, and then I'm not going to use GMO. We use Morningstar, and what's the other one on the lower end? I can't remember. There's a couple on the lower ends. So Morningstar thinks about a 1.8% stock return, domestic stock returns. That's before inflation kicks in. What's the other firm? I can't remember. Another firm said about Research Affiliates, who I'm a big fan of. They said about 0.8%, and that's before inflation. So after inflation, we'll look at negative returns for both those guys, right? Vanguard says about 5 or so, give or take, and I think that was a real return after inflation, if memory serves. But anyway, either way, it's not much. And Schwab's saying about 6.5. All right, so we don't know. But we do know for a fact that my man Lou here is going to pay 4 1/4 guaranteed for the next 13 years, 100% guaranteed. All right, so if he were to say, well, I'm gonna continue to pay that 4 1/4 because I think I can get more in the market. But my first thing I got to ask is, why do you think that, and what's your reasoning behind that? If your reasoning behind that is because what historically has been, I don't. That's not a good reason. History, we're told all the time, past performance is not indicative of future results, and I just think you actually have to listen to that. Past performance is not indicative of future results. So what you do is you factor in dividend yield. All right, I still look at stock buybacks like Med Favor talks about. I think that's important to look at, and earnings growth year over year. So if we give earnings growth year over year, say 5, dividend yield of let's say 2, and then what's the other one? Stock buybacks. I don't even know if you can count stock buybacks, but let's just do that 1. So we got stock buybacks at 1%, dividend yield at 2%, earnings growth year over year at 5. 2 plus 1 plus 5, that's 8. That's 8% real rate of return. But that's up and down. If you look historically, again, I just said don't do this, but I'm going to tell you, if you look historically at the numbers on any given year, it goes way up and way down, way up, way down. It's not just like 8% flat. It's just not. But we do know it's going to cost him. The cost to borrow this money is 4 1/4, fixed, guaranteed. What is a 10-year treasury right now? It's 2.35, my friends. So he's paying twice the rate of a 10-year treasury bond. The bank is loving it. The bank is loving it because they can't go out in the market and get a bond to save their life at 4.25 of any significant. They can't. I mean, they could buy a lower investment grade credit quality, a long-term bond for sure, and that's basically what Lou is. Essentially, he's a high investment grade long-term bond. But a bank could not get 4.25. For 15 years, probably. So they're looking at Lou as like a bank. All right, well, I mean, as a corporation, a high investment grade corporation. But Lou doesn't need to do that because he's not desperate for the cash. What he should do now is just start paying this sucker off like a crazy man and get it done and behind him. That's the way to do it. So I would absolutely hammer my friend Lou on that 4.25 home equity line of credit and just get that sucker behind you without question, assuming that there is no match. Assuming that if there is a match, you take advantage of the match of both you and your spouse, and then assuming too that, well, that's not even a good assumption, but assuming that you do have some liquidity, because don't forget, I don't want you to be a cash poor. I mean, what I mean by or house poor. So you have all the equity in the world but no cash. We don't want that. So he doesn't say if he's got liquidity here or not. So I'm going to assume he's got some liquidity because he's been with the public sector for quite some time. So that's what I would do. Hands down, bar none, get it done. Now, focus like a laser beam on the HELOC and then focus like a laser beam on the mortgage. Oh, secondly, he's going to be in a much higher tax bracket when he retires as well, all right? So adding money, fuel to the fire, so to speak, of his 401k plan, all that's going to do is put him in a higher and higher and higher tax bracket in the future. Don't do that. It doesn't make sense to do that. It just doesn't. Yeah, he'll save a little bit of taxes today at the cost of 4.25 on the HELOC, but when that sucker comes due at RMD time, and then when he dies and leaves it to his wife, it's going to be a nightmare. So don't do that. So anyway, that's my suggestion to you, Lou. Love to hear your thoughts on that. We'll see you next time.